Guys, you clicked on the video because of that thumbnail and you want to know what the heck does Marty McFly have to do with the fungus that they've discovered in the bottom of the ocean? Well, stay tuned. We got to take it back to the fungi. So, today's fungus of choice is Malassezia. Say it with me, Malassezia. Malassezia is found everywhere, guys. They find it all, it's on our bodies, it's found in other animals, they found it in soil, they found it in the depths of the ocean. This fungus is a yeast, if we want to be proper about it. And I even drew a little diagram to kind of give you guys a perspective of how big, rather how little this is. Right here we have a little zoomed in shot of Malassezia furfur. And like I always say, if Malassezia furfur. But this thing, these little buds will say, and right next to it I also have the hypha. But we're within a little square that's 20 micrometers tall, 20 micrometers wide. What's a micrometer? That's 1,000th of a millimeter. And to give you guys a better perspective, we could compare one of my beard hairs here is roughly 50 micrometers wide. So this bracket here would be one beard hair wide. And one of these yeast cells, as you can see, are only going to be like 2 to 4 micrometers across. Crazy. So when we say it's part of our microbiome, that's to say that it lives on us, healthy, sick, or otherwise. It's a part of us from the day we're born. We're introduced to it even from our mother's milk. Dermatologists know this particular fungus as the culprit behind dandruff and seborrheic dermatitis. Once again, it's found, actually it's not even found just on our skin and our hair, although its primary location would be our head and shoulders. But it can also be found in other high lipid areas internally. They've even discovered it within our gut. They've discovered it within our central nervous system. And this is kind of how this all leads into the whole Michael J. Fox thing, because Michael J. Fox, as the big advocate for Parkinson's disease awareness, has Parkinson's disease, right? Well, Parkinson's disease is death of the basal ganglion neurons. What I'm saying is it's actual brain damage being caused to a part of our brain that's responsible for movement, for locomotion. I don't know if y'all are aware, but our central nervous system is high in fat. It's one of the largest concentrations of lipids in our body outside of just adipose tissue or fat cells. So seeing that the central nervous system has a lot of lipids, this sounds like a beautiful home for a yeast that, oh, I didn't mention. So Malassezia is one of these rare instances where there's a fungus that actually requires lipids in its diet because it doesn't manufacture its own fatty acids. So it actually has to consume them in its diet. And that's why it dwells in places where you get high lipid concentrations, such as our skin and hair follicles. It feeds off of our sebum, the sweat on our skin. It's munching on the oils. Parkinson's disease. Let's bring it on back. So what did I say? Central nervous system, high lipid density, a lot of fat tissue in the brain. Parkinson's disease is a brain disease. As a matter of fact, I don't think I got this far yet, but it's the fastest growing neurological disease. It's outpacing, in diagnoses, it's outpacing Alzheimer's disease, dementia. What's some of the other ones? You got that multiple sclerosis, ALS. So these all the forms of neurological diseases, um, Parkinson's disease is the fastest growing one. And more specifically, you've got certain regions of the United States. Obviously, I'm in the United States here, and I'm in one of the hot spots for Parkinson's disease diagnoses, and that's, they nickname it the Parkinson's Belt, which is basically, it runs along the Appalachian Trail. So if you're in Pennsylvania, pardon the traffic, here we go. But if you're in Pennsylvania all the way down to Georgia, throughout this Appalachian region, you're in a high Parkinson's diagnosis density area. And there's one other part of the country that is nicknamed Parkinson's Alley because of the high diagnoses, and that's, I believe, Central California. So check this out. Speaking of Central California, it's the UCSF, what is that, University of California, San Francisco? They're doing an ongoing study right now regarding Parkinson's disease and this fungus. There is a suspicion that this yeast, the Malassezia, is actually getting into the substantia nigra, this portion of the brain in the basal ganglia, and basically destroying neurons, because neurons have these fatty acids that they love to digest. Why is this happening and causing Parkinson's disease is kind of the question here, and they're trying to find the correlation, because we already know, science knows, I guess, that there is a genetic aspect to getting Parkinson's disease. And they also know that there's environmental factors such as exposure to certain chemicals, herbicides, pesticides, industrial chemicals, chemicals that were used in this part of the country in the processing of steel. I'm an hour from Pittsburgh. I'm not far from steel country here. And the Parkinson's disease epidemic in this part of the country may have a lot to do with the steel industry of the past. So we're well aware of our genetic and our environmental factors, but could there possibly be a tie between Malassezia and Parkinson's disease? Would you believe that in the autopsies of the brains of folks with Parkinson's disease, they are finding the Malassezia inside the tissue? I mean, we're talking hyphae running intercellularly or intracellularly, right, between the cells. These hyphae are so tiny that they're not picking up, they're not seeing these on MRIs and scans of the brain. They're not finding them until they actually go in and look at the tissue under a microscope. And the thing is, when they take a tissue sample, if they were to take a biopsy of somebody's living tissue and culture it on a dish, they are probably not going to discover it. Because once again, this takes us back to the fact that these things like fats, and most culture plates are not going to have fat as a food source. And that's why it's been so complicated, very difficult for them to find a correlation between the Malassezia fungus, the yeast, and Parkinson's disease. Man, I should have got out of the sun a while ago. You guys were staring at me, squinting at you. But lastly, I just want to bring this together and add to this that folks who've been diagnosed with seborrheic dermatitis, they're finding a huge increase, multiple fold diagnoses of Parkinson's disease in folks that have been pre-diagnosed in their past, in their lifetime, with this dermatitis. So what do you think of that? Hey, I'm going to wrap this up real quick. I wanted to start this. We're going to make this into 2 videos, because next week I want to show you that there are fungi out there, maybe even out in these woods, that may have an answer for this. So stay tuned. Thank you for watching. And if you're here live for the Monday night premiere, you know to stay afterwards. We're going to chat live. I'll hopefully answer some questions that I may not have mentioned. I really didn't deep dive into what Parkinson's disease is as a disease. I'd love to share that in the after chat if you want. We can talk any topic. We can go into other fungi. It doesn't even necessarily have to be about tonight. I get future video ideas from the after party. So stay after with me if you're here for the live premiere. And tune in next week as we do explore the good side of fungi tied in with Parkinson's disease. And until next time, peace. Disorder, disorder, disorder.